Fifth graders, today is Thursday, November 21st, and you can see that today we're doing Eureka Math Module 2, Lesson 27, but as you can see by the learning goal, as people already noticed, and you noticed too, I'm sure, it's the same exact learning goal as yesterday, okay? This is a complicated concept. It's not hard, but it's frustrating, and it requires a lot of calculations. And when something requires a lot of calculations, it means that there's a lot of chances to make silly mistakes, right? Like if we multiply something wrong or we estimate something wrong, we could make a mistake, and that could affect our final answer. So we're going to have some time to do some more practice with this concept today. So this question is asking us to find out how many kilometers each team member will run. We know that there are 22 team members, and it's 77 kilometers altogether. So what's the equation that we have to solve? Well, we know that there's 77 kilometers altogether, and we're dividing it equally amongst 22 members. So it's division. Do you guys agree? Is this sharing or grouping? Are we finding out how many groups of runners there will be, or how many kilometers each runner will get? Yeah, it's sharing because we're trying to find out how many kilometers each person gets. We're sharing the whole race equally amongst 22 people. Let's set it up with the standard algorithm. What's the whole?
77.
Okay. Who's knocking on the door?
22.
Okay. So what's the first equation that we're actually doing? Are we doing 7 divided by 22? It's going to be 77 divided by 22, right? So let's use estimation to help us. Let me erase that and put a squiggly one there. Okay, 22 is pretty close to?
20.
Okay. And 77 is pretty close to?
80.
80. Yeah. So what's 80 divided by 20?
4.
The 4 would go in what place?
The 1.
Okay, so I'm going to put a 4 there. Now, Mom's going to multiply. I can do 22 times 4 in my head. Can you? What is it?
88.
What do we feel about 88?
Too big.
Too big. So what should we put instead?
3.
Okay. What's 3 times 22?
6.
Okay, good. When I subtract, what do I get?
11.
Okay, so today is the day where you have to start thinking about what does this remainder mean? What are we dividing here? 77 what's? Kilometers. And it's in a race, right? How many of you guys have ever run a race or watched a race? Have you guys ever watched a relay race where people share and pass a baton and keep running? Okay, so if altogether they have to run 77 kilometers, we know that each person needs to run at least 3 kilometers, right? Because when we divided 77 by 22, we got 3. Then we got remainder 11. Well, in a race, what do we do with that remainder? Do we just say, okay, we're going to leave those kilometers there. That's the remainder. No one needs to run that because that's the remainder. In a real race, what would people do with this 11 remaining kilometers? The fact that there's 11 as a remainder means that there's 11 kilometers that hasn't been run by anyone yet. Right? Do we just say, okay, well, we can't divide that equally, so no one needs to run those 11 kilometers. We're done. Is that what we do in a race?
No.
What would happen? What would happen? Would people run part of a kilometer to finish the race? Right?
Yeah.
When we run races, can we only run whole number of kilometers?
No.
Could I run 3 point something kilometers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we could, that means that we have to keep on dividing. We can't stop when there's a remainder. So let's take a look. I have 11 as my remainder, but could I regroup that?
Yeah.
Could I bring down 0 tenths, and now I have 110 tenths?
Yeah.
Oh, so I could keep dividing, right? Now my new division problem is 110 tenths divided by 22. Well, let's estimate. 22 is still pretty close to?
28.
And 110 is close to?
100.
100 tenths. So what's 100 tenths divided by 20? 5 tenths. So let's try putting 5 tenths in our quotient. We have to put the decimal to make it 5 tenths. Then what would we multiply? 5 times?
22.
Which is?
110.
And now our remainder is 0. So sometimes if the context calls for it, we have to keep regrouping and keep dividing into the decimals so that we don't have a remainder anymore. So what's the answer? How many kilometers will each team member run? 3.5 kilometers.
Papers like this.
What's the question asking us to find?
What is it?
Good. We just want to know what the width is. Okay. What important information do we need to know? Shobit? Yeah, the area is 140.25 square inches. And the length is 17 inches. So let's draw a picture of the paper. Here's our paper. The area is 140.25 square inches. And we know that the length is 17 inches. And we're trying to find out what the width is. Well, what do we know about the area, formula for area? It's length times width. So what this means is something times 17 will equal 140.25. Yes? So how can we use division to find that missing something? So we're going to be doing 140.25 divided by 17. Now let's think to ourselves first. What is the context? What are we trying to find? The length or the width of a piece of paper, yeah? Does paper only come in whole number measurements? No. So if we have a remainder, what do we need to do? Can we have decimals for this? Yeah. Okay. Some things in life we can have decimals for. Some things we can't, right? If it was asking how many boxes do I need to transport all the caramel?
Or like how many people?
Right? Would I be able to have 4.5 boxes? No, right? Or if it says, how many people will be in each group? Could I have 4.25 peoples in each group? So if there was a remainder in that case, what would you need to do? Add 1, right? Okay, does that make sense? So sometimes we have to think about what does the remainder even mean. In this case, do we want a remainder?
Yes. No.
For paper. If I'm measuring the width of paper, do I want remainders or do I want to keep dividing until I have the exact measurement? Good, let's do it. What would our first actual division equation be? 140 what's?
1.
Good. So 140 ones divided by 17. Okay, 17 is pretty close to?
20.
And so we have 140 divided by 20. That's compatible, yeah? What does that equal?
7.
Okay, so 7 what's? Thank you. So let's start by putting a 7 in the ones place. Then what multiplication should we do? Allie? 17 times 7, good. 7 times 7 is? Okay. 7 times 1 is?
7.
Plus 4? So we get 119. Okay, let's try it. We have to regroup, right? Okay. So I end up with 21. How do we feel about that?
Too much.
How do we know that 21 is too much, too big? Gaurav?
Because you can divide 21 by 17.
Yeah. So 7 was too small then. So what number should we use instead?
8.
Okay. Now at this point you have two choices. You could erase, you could cross out what you've done here or just leave it. And you could do 17 times 8. Or you could know that if I add one more group of 17, how much would I have to take away from this 21? Yeah, so I could just take away 17 here. Do you guys see how that works?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're left with 4, which is much better, much smaller, right? Okay, so then what do we do with that 4? We turn it into 40 tenths, good. But if I bring down the tenths I already have, how many tenths do I have altogether?
42.
Okay, so now I'm doing 42 tenths divided by 17. Well, 17 is still pretty close to.
20.
So what should we try with the whole?
40.
40 tenths, which is going to be 2 tenths. Good. So let's try and put 2 tenths in our quotient. Don't forget to add the decimal point. Otherwise, you have 82 and not 8.2. Okay? Can we do it 2 times 17 in our head?
Yeah.
What is it?
34.
Good. If you can't, it's okay. You can write it out. No problem, right? Okay, what's 42 minus 34?
8.
Oh, good. Nice and small. Okay, then we bring down the 5. So we have 85 hundredths. Yes? Okay, 17 is pretty close to?
20.
85 is pretty close to?
8.
So 80 divided by 20 is? Sometimes if you can do the estimation in your head, that's okay too. Now what do we need to multiply? 17 times 4. 7 times 4 is? 28. 4 times 1 is? Plus 2. Okay, what's 85 minus 68? 17? So what does that mean? 17 is exactly the same as our divisor. So what does that mean? We could add one more, right? So instead of having 4 hundredths, we want
5.
And if we take away 17 more, we'll have 0 left over, yeah? So my answer is 8.25, but that's half of the answer. Go back and read to yourself. What is the question asking? What is the?
Width.
So it's 8.25.
Inches.
Good job. So always make sure at the end to go back and see what the question is asking and see if you've actually answered the question and what kind of units you would need to answer the question.